भागवतम पिछला अध्याय हमने पढ़ा मार्कंडेय ऋषि का। आज आगे चैप्टर 104 टाइटल सुकन्या। At the end of the pralaya, only the Lord was and nothing else. Out of the navel of the Lord appeared a lotus, and out of that lotus appeared Brahma. Marichi was born out of the mind of Brahma. Marichi's wife was Dakshayani, and their son was Kashyap. Kashyap's wife was Aditi, and their son was Surya. Surya's son was Shraddha Deva, who had been Satyavrata during the previous kalpa. Ikshavaku was the son of Shraddha Deva, who, being the son of Vivasvat and also being Manu, is famed as Vivasvat Manu. The line of Vivasvat was called the Suryavancha, and later Ikshavaku Vamsha, since Ikshavasu was a great and famous king. आगे चल के इसी इक्ष्वासु सूर्यवंशियों में भगवान राम का जन्म हुआ था. One of the sons of Manu and Sharyati, he was a very righteous man, and he had a daughter by name Sukanya. She was beautiful with eyes like lotus flowers. Though she had grown into a maiden, her father thought of her as still a child, and he was extremely fond of her. She, in her turn, was a child at heart, and she was the beloved of all those at the court. Once, when the king had gone to the forest with his retinue, their daughter accompanied him. They came to the ashram of Chaivana, a great rishi. Chaivan was absorbed in meditation, and such a long time had passed since he began his tapas that the earth had covered him like a shell, and he could not be seen. Sukanya, the young princess, was wandering about, and she was intrigued by the mud heap. She went near, and through an opening in the shell, she could see two little points of light gleaming like a couple of glowworms. In her own childish way, she took up a piece of darba grass and pushed it inside, touched the points of light. They were, of course, the eyes of the rishi, and Sukanya had hurt him. As a result of the rishi's anger, the entire army of the king was paralyzed, and he did not know what had caused this calamity. He called everyone and asked them if anyone had insulted the rishi. Sukanya walked hesitantly towards her father and told him what she had done. The king was horrified, and he rushed to the presence of the rishi. He beseeched him to forgive his daughter and himself for the sin which had been committed unwittingly. The king offered the hand of his daughter to Chavanya and pacified the rishi. Sukanya was given in marriage to Chaivana, and she went with him to stay in his ashram. In that one moment, when her father's army suffered because of her thoughtlessness, Sukanya lost her childishness and became a woman. She served her lord like Devahuti served Kardama. Once the heavenly twins, the Ashwin Kumaras, came to the ashram of Chaivana. The rishi had been pleased with the devotion of Sukanya, and he wanted to please her. He therefore asked her a boon of the Ashwins after honoring them. He said, "You are the divine physicians. Because of the fact that you are professionals, the Devas do not give you a share of the soma during the yajna. You are considered as the inferior gods. If you make me young and handsome and desirable, I will, in return, make you get a share of the soma." The twins were thrilled at the thought of the rise in the status and promised to give him youth. After several incantations, they asked Chavanya to enter a lake which had been treated by them. And he did so, and so did they. A moment passed, and out of the lake there arose 3 young men. All were handsome, and all 3 of them were wearing garlands of lotuses. Their ears were decked with jewels, and they were wearing lovely silks. Sukanya, the purest of women, looked at them and was at a loss as to who was her lord. She fell on the ground and addressed the twins. Please have pity on me, and see to it that my chastity is not harmed in any way. Please stand apart and let me know who my lord is. They were pleased with her and revealed themselves as apart from Chaivana. They then took leave of them and went back to the heavens. In the meantime, Sharyati, Sukanya's father, wanted to perform a yajna, and he came to Chavanya's ashram to consult him about it. When he entered the ashram, he found his daughter with a young man who was as handsome as a god. The king was horrified at the sight. Sukanya rushed to him with a glad cry and fell at his feet. The father, however, would not bless her and turned his face away. She did not know what had displeased him. There was an angry look on his father's face, and very naively she asked, Father, why are you looking so angry? Why do you look as though you are displeased with me? I am seeing you after so many days, and I am hurt that you are not pleased to see me. You were once so fond of me, but now you are not, evidently. Tell me, Father, what have I done to incur this displeasure? Sharyati looked at her and said, How dare you stand before me and ask such a question? You are not fit to be my daughter anymore. Born as you are in the great race of Manu, how could you become an asati? Indeed, the great Rishi Chavanna had been deceived by you. I am surprised that he has not cursed you. How could you be so shameless? You are living in sin with this young man, and you ask me to bless you even after I have seen you with him. You are not my daughter anymore. I do not want to look at you. He turned away. A peal of ringing laughter which sounded like silver bells tinkling made him pause. He turned round and looked at her in surprise. The young man joined in the laughter. They both came near him, and Sukanya said, Father, I have not sinned. This young man is your son-in-law. He is the great Rishi and no one else. They told him what had happened, all about how the Ashwins were responsible for their good fortune. Chaivana performed the Soma Yajna for Sharyati, and during the Yajna he offered the Soma to the Ashwins also. The gods were pleased and Indra came there. So incensed was he that he lifted up his dread Vajra to destroy Chavanna. However, the power of Chavanna's tapas was such that he could paralyze the arm of Indra. The Lord of Heavens found his arm could not be moved, and the Vajra was lying inert in his fist. Indra then realized that he was unnecessarily selfish, and the Devas agreed to let the Ashwin twins have a share of the Soma from then on. That's how chapter 104 ends. दो की पॉइंट्स, एक ऋषि अपराध, किस तरह ऋषि को दुख दिया सुकन्या ने unknowingly, which in the older tradition is considered a great अपराध. और दूसरा, कैसे कभी कभी जो दिखता है वो होता नहीं है. उस राजा को सुकन्या और वो यंग मैन दिखा, उसको उस यंग मैन में वो ऋषि नहीं दिखा, चवन्ना नहीं दिखा. तो great lesson in life many a times, what you see is not the reality. In the haste, in जल्दबाजी हम कुछ ऐसे निर्णय ले लेते हैं, जजमेंट्स फॉर्म कर लेते हैं जो हमें दिख रहा है उसके बेसिस पे, विदाउट नोइंग कि इसके पीछे का सत्य क्या है. और ये भागवतम तो पूरी ही पीछे के सत्यों की एक चेन है, एक कथा है. जो व्यक्ति, जो तुम्हें दृश्य दिख रहा है सामने, मन में आ रहा है किसी को जज कर लेना, किसी के प्रति कोई धारणा बना लेना, बट उसके पीछे पूरी चेन ऑफ इवेंट्स है. ये भागवतम में हम अभी तक देखते आए हैं. So that's the second lesson here. Chapter 105 titled Nahabaka. Nabka was a great king in line of the Ikshvaksu and his son was Nabka. पिता का नाम नाभक है, बेटे का नाम नाभका है. This young man was so devoted to learning that he spent most of his time with his guru. So much so, when the time came for the partitioning of their father's wealth, his brothers forgot all about the existence of Nabaka and divided it all among themselves. Nabaka came back from the abode of his guru and went to his brothers. He asked them, "Which is my share of my father's wealth?" They said, "Actually, we forgot all about you since you were away for so long. Now it is too late to divide it all over again. But father is still unclaimed. We therefore allot our father to you as your share. Take him with you and take good care of him." Nabaka went to his father and related to him about the words spoken by his brothers. The father said, "My son, they have become avaricious and they have deceived you. I am not like wealth which will help you to make a living. Still, since it has happened like this, I will think up something to help you." The old man pondered for a while and then said, "I know how to help you to make a living. I know a method by which you can acquire wealth. Here, nearby, the Angirasas are performing a yagya by name Abhiplava and Prishatta. These have to be concluded 6 days after the commencement. Now these Angirasas, though they are learned and wise, will not be able to remember the vital mantra without which the yagya cannot be completed. You stay in the spot and repeat these 2 mantras which I will teach you. Since they will attain the heavens because of these yagya being completed successfully, they will in gratitude give you all the valuable things which will be left over in the Yagyashala. With that wealth you can live a great comfort." Nabaka did as he was told, and as the old father had predicted, the Angirasas gave him the wealth which was left in the Yagyashala. When he was collecting all that was given to him, Nabaka saw a dark man coming towards him from the northern direction. He came near and said, "All this belongs to me. You have no right over it." Nabaka told him the story of how the Angirasas has given it all to him as a token of their appreciation and gratitude. But it was of no avail. So young Nabaka said, "This has to be decided by a third person." "So be it," said the dark stranger, who was none other than Rudra. "Go to your father and tell him what has happened. I will abide by what he says," said Rudra. Father heard the story and said, "My son, long ago, during the yagya performed by Daksha, the rishis announced that the wealth left in the yagya bhumi always will belong to Rudra. It is Rudra who had come to claim it now. He was right, he has every right over it, and again he is a deva. We cannot dispute his claim." Nabaka, the young man, went back to Rudra and said, "My father says that the wealth is entirely yours and that I have no claim on it. Please forgive me for my ignorance of your true self and bless me who has fallen at your feet." Rudra was immensely pleased with the behavior of the young prince and said, "You are honest and you are straightforward. You also know how to respect one who is older than you. I am pleased with you. I will teach you the Brahma Vidya. And also as a reward for your righteousness, I will make a gift of this wealth to you." Nabaka became one of the great seers of his time. That's how chapter 105 ends. ऐसा लग रहा है ये इंडिपेंडेंट स्टोरीज हैं कुछ ऋषियों की और राजाओं की. सुंदर पॉइंट है इसमें. किंग नाभक के सभी बेटों ने, ये छोटा पुत्र नाभका नहीं था वहां, सारी वेल्थ जायदाद बांट ली. और बोला कि पिता को तुम रख लो। उनको लगा होगा कि उनकी वेल्थ बहुत कीमती है, बट बाप बाप ही होता है। He knew the ways, he knew the trick, how to help the son. सब कुछ ना मिलने के बावजूद भी पिता को ways and techniques पता है, through which he will always come and give justice if he is the right father, if he is the right, क्या कहेंगे, अगर धर्मनिष्ठ पिता है तो। और पुत्र भी देखो, डिवोशन इतनी है कि एनीथिंग दैट द फादर इज सेइंग ही इज एक्सेप्टिंग एंड रिसीविंग इट। कोई काउंटर आर्ग्यूमेंट, कोई काउंटर कुछ नहीं है। व्हेन यू बिहेव लाइक दैट, ट्रस्टिंग, जो मिल रहा है, जो मिला, जो भी तुम्हारे भाग्य का तुम्हें मिल रहा है, व्हेन यू ट्रस्ट दैट कंप्लीटली, और चाहे कुछ ना भी मिल रहा हो, when you trust that also completely, Rudra will not forsake you. He will always be there to bless you. You're always taken care of. इस बात को याद रखना। लगता है ऐसा कि हमें अपने हिस्से का नहीं मिल रहा। सारा झगड़ा ही यही है पृथ्वी पे। हर व्यक्ति को लगता है उससे अपने हिस्से का नहीं मिल रहा कुछ भी, चाहे जमीन जायदाद हो, चाहे रिस्पेक्ट हो, चाहे कुछ भी हो, चाहे यही हो कि दुनिया मुझे समझती नहीं है, वो भी एक यही एक्सपेक्टेशन है कि मेरा हिस्सा है ये कि तुम मुझे समझो, आई डिजर्व दैट मच। सारा झगड़ा उस बात का है। मियाँ बीवी, पति पत्नी, पार्टनर्स, माँ बाप के बच्चों में, सारा मित्रों में झगड़ा यही है कि आई डिजर्व टू बी अंडरस्टूड। तुम मुझे समझ क्यों नहीं रहे हो? यानी मुझे मेरे हिस्से की समझ तुमसे क्यों नहीं मिल रही है? मुझे मेरे हिस्से का प्रेम, मुझे मेरे हिस्से का सम्मान, मुझे मेरे हिस्से का पैम्परिंग, मुझे मेरे हिस्से की जायदाद क्यों नहीं मिल रही है? तो हम सब अपना हिस्सा मांगने में लगे हुए हैं पूरे जीवन। बस इसी बात का झगड़ा है। जिस दिन ये हिस्सा मांगना हम छोड़ देंगे, वो भारतीय शादियों में देखते हैं ना कि कोई ना कोई नाराज हो जाता है, वो अपना हिस्सा मांग रहा है, उसने एक अपनी नरेशन बनाई हुई है अपने हिस्से की, उसको लगता है उसको उससे हिस्से का नहीं मिला। कुछ दिन पहले एक मित्र नाराज हो गए थे कि उनको भोजन ठीक से नहीं परोसा गया। उनको लगा ये उनका हिस्सा है, ही डिजर्व टू बी ट्रीटेड इन अ सर्टेन वे। तो हम सब अपने हिस्से की लड़ाइयाँ लड़ते हैं। इसी बात का झगड़ा पूरी पृथ्वी पे, और यही एक हमारे दुख का कारण है। मान लो, आज जान लो, कुछ हिस्सा नहीं होता। एवरीथिंग बिलोंग्स टू द शिवा। वट एवर ही डिसाइड्स, ही गिव्स यू दैट। आनंद से स्वीकार कर लो प्रसाद की तरह, तो जीवन अमृत है। हिस्से की मांग करोगे तो जीवन अभिशाप है। चॉइस इज आवर्स। सिंपल सी बात। आगे बढ़ते हैं। चैप्टर 106, टाइटल अम्बारिशा। Nabhaka's son was Ambarisha, who was lord of the entire earth and possessed immense wealth. देखो उसका खुद का पुत्र इतना रिच हो गया है। But he was a wise man. He knew that things of the world are all transient, and that they try to ensnare man's wisdom. He therefore considered it all as a passing movement which occurs in a dream. कितनी सुंदर बात है। सारी पृथ्वी का मालिक है वो, और उसके साथ साथ वाइज भी है। उसको मालूम है ये सब ट्रांजिएंट है, जो सब है ये सब एक मूवमेंट की तरह चला जा रहा है, एक सपने में। He lived as a king. He enjoyed all his wealth and the glory of kingship, but with the knowledge that it was not a lasting thing. He was not involved with the worldly things because he was the son, like his father, His mind was steeped in Brahma Vidya. पीछे के चैप्टर में देखो कितना सुंदर ये भी था कि रुद्र ने खुद बोला था नाभका को प्रसन्न होकर कि मैं तुम्हें ब्रह्म विद्या सिखाऊंगा, तो उसको क्या मिला और भाइयों को बंटवारे में क्या मिला? Poor brothers. He had great devotion to Narayana, which made it easier for him to treat the entire world and its charms like a clod of mud. He was a Bhagavat in the true sense of the word. His mind was always lost in the feet of Narayana. His words were only words of praise of the Lord. His hands were ever engaged in doing menial service in the temple of the Lord. His ears were always eager to listen to the stories of the Lord, and his eyes were happy only when they looked at the image of the Lord in the temple. His feet, he felt, were blessed only when they went on a pilgrimage to holy spots. This king, who was a Narayan Bhakta in true sense, ruled the earth, and he ruled it very well. Vashishta and Asita and Gautama helped him to perform the Ashwamedha on the banks of the river Saraswati. Amrisha lived in the world of men without any bondage, without any attachment. Narayan was so pleased with him that he gave his personal weapon, Sudarshan Chakra, to the king. This protected the king and his country, and so time went on. Once the king heard about the sanctity of the Vrat by name Dwadashi Vrat. He and his wife therefore observed the Vrat for a whole year. At the termination of the Vrat, which was observed during the month of Kartik, the king fasted for 3 days. He then went to the grove by name Madhuvan and worshipped the Lord there. After giving away gifts of gold and cows to Brahmins, he came back to his palace and sat down to break the fast with his wife by his side. At that moment, there appeared before him the sage Durvasa. The king got up in a hurry and placed a noble seat for the rishi. He honored him with Argya, Padya and Achmanya. The king then prostrated before the great man and requested him to honor him by taking his food in his house. Durvasa were very pleased with the humility of the king and said, "Certainly, I will accept your hospitality. I will first go to the river to perform my morning ablutions and then come back." Rishi Durvasa then entered the river and was having his bath, all the while reciting the mantra, the sutra by name Agmarshana. In the meantime, the king was in a difficult position. Dwadashi was fast drawing to a close. Only a few moments were left, and it was imperative that he should do parana, which is have his food before Dwadashi ended in order to make his vrat successful. It was not only essential that he should eat, but it was sin if, after performing the vrat, a man did not eat during the Dwadashi. क्या धर्म संकट है? समय खत्म हो रहा है द्वादशी तिथि का, उपवास तोड़ना है, नहीं तोड़ा तो व्रत वेस्ट हो जाएगा, और उधर ऋषि दुर्वासा समय ले रहे हैं वापस आने में, क्या करें? He asked the advice of the learned Brahmins, and they said that a few drops of water purified with tulsi leaves would avert the sin. Accordingly, the king wetted his lips with a few drops of this water, which is said to be as pure as Ganga, and waited for the coming of the rishi. Rishi Durvasa came back. He was received humbly by the king, but the rishi saw with his mind's eye what had happened. He was highly insulted that the host, a king, should have ignored an honored guest to the extent of beginning the prana without his guest. His body was trembling with anger and his eyes were spitting fire. He said, "You are drunk with power and wealth. You are an arrogant man who does not know how to honor a guest. I will teach you what is to insult me. You will be punished for this." He pulled out a lock from his matted hair and created a being named Kritya. This being held a sword in his hand and he rushed towards the king. Amrisha stood unmoved. Before anything could happen, Sudarshan Chakra came on the scene and burnt the newly created being to ashes. Durvasa was amazed at this. Sudarshan did not stop there. It rushed towards Durvasa, and he tried to escape from its fury by running away. He ran from the spot and the chakra followed him. He ran into the forest and it pursued him like a forest fire. He entered a cave in the mountain Meru and he found the chakra there. He ran to the heavens and to the abode of Indra. The chakra pursued him. He went to Brahma, the creator of the universe, and said, "Help me, help me. Protect me from the weapon of Narayana." Brahma said, "I am a servant of the Lord and I am helpless. I will not intervene between you and the weapon of Narayana." Durvasa then went to Mahadeva and asked him to help him. Mahadeva asked him to go to Narayan himself and fall at his feet. Durvasa went to Vaikuntha and the dwelling place of the Lord. He was there and so was Mahalakshmi, his consort. The rishi rushed to him, fell at his feet and said, "Please protect me. Ask this chakra of yours to leave me. I am not able to withstand the fire emanating from your Sudarshana. I am being burnt and you are the only savior." "How did it happen?" asked the Lord. "How is it that my chakra is pursuing you like this? Tell me." With a shamed look and with faltering words, Durvasa related the entire incident and said, "I have offended your bhakta and your chakra is trying to punish me for it. Please help me. There is nothing that is impossible for the Lord of Lords. I am repentant about my behavior. Please save me." Narayan smiled and said, "My dear Durvasa, can you not see that I am also just as helpless as Brahma or Rudra? Evidently you do not know about me. I am not a free person. I may be able to do anything I like, but first and foremost, I belong to my bhaktas. All that is mine belong to them. They have renounced everything and I have chosen. They have renounced everything and have chosen me as their sole companion. They have abandoned everything for my sake. Wife, home, child and kinsmen. They have abandoned their very lives. They have no thought of this world or the next. Heaven holds no charm for them. All they want is my grace. In return, I have sworn that I will never abandon them. The foremost thought in my mind is the bhakti they have for me. They have conquered me with their love and I am powerless against their love. I have no will of my own." नारायण बोल रहे हैं बातें. Their sorrow is my sorrow and their happiness is my happiness. I am famed by the name भक्त पराधीना. ईश्वर अपना नाम बता रहे हैं, भक्त पराधीना. मैं भक्तों के अधीन हूं. भक्त पराधीन मेरा नाम है. I am not as fond of myself or even my Devi Lakshmi as I am of my bhaktas. क्या बात. When such is the case, how can I treat them casually? Any insult offered to my bhakta is considered as an insult to me. Just as good women make slaves of their husband by the extreme love they have for them, even so my bhaktas have made me their slave. ईश्वर बोल रहे हैं कि मैं अपने भक्तों का slave हूं. As for you, you are also my bhakta. But I cannot ask this chakra to move away from the course it has chosen. I will tell you what you can do to save yourself. There is one way and only one way out for you. Go back to earth. Fall at the feet of the bhakta whom you have offended. Perhaps Sudarshan will listen to the entreaties of Amrisha, the son of Nabhaka. He may withdraw it for your sake and you may be saved. With a crestfallen look, Durvasa arrived at the palace door of Amrisha. He went to the king and falling at his feet, he caught them in his two hands. Amrisha was greatly embarrassed, and he at once began to offer prayers to Sudarshan, the chakra of the Lord. O Sudarshan, I salute you. You are Agni, Surya, Chandra, and the stars. You pervade the universe. You are the favorite weapon of Narayana, who is the ocean of mercy. You are so great that all the astras are powerless against your glory. I fall at your feet and ask you to forgive this Brahman. You destroy evil and evildoers. Please do not show your anger against a poor and powerless Brahman. Pleased with his prayers, Sudarshana became cool and Durvasa was no longer pursued by the dread weapon. The chastened Rishi then spoke to the king. He said, "You are a very noble man. You are gentle even with me who insulted you for no reason at all. I have realized the greatness of the devotees of Narayana. For those who have captivated the Lord with their devotion, nothing is impossible. By holding his image in your mind forever, men like you become so pure and holy that they are as sacred as the river Ganga. I have been treated very kindly by you. You have forgotten the insulting words I hurled at you, and you have saved my life." The king made him feel less embarrassed because it was quite a humiliating experience for a great rishi like Durvasa to fall at the feet of a king who he had thought had not paid him enough respect. Somehow the moment passed, the moment which was painful to both of them. क्या खूबसूरत बात है. The moment which was painful for both of them. ऋषि दुर्वासा क्योंकि क्षमा मांग रहे हैं, पेनफुल मोमेंट है क्षमा मांगने का. और राजा नाभ का बेटा, वो इसलिए अमरीशा, वो इसलिए दुखी है क्योंकि एम्बैरेसिंग है कि एक इतना महान ऋषि तुम्हारे चरणों पे गिर के तुमसे क्षमा मांग रहा है. जिस व्यक्ति के भीतर ईश्वर का वास है उसके लिए ये बहुत पेनफुल है कि कोई भी उसके आगे गिर के उससे कुछ याचना क्षमा कर रहा है, तो उसका दिल भी टूट रहा है. बट वो घड़ी पास हो गई. कितनी सुंदर कथा है कि ईश्वर भी अपने भक्तों के अधीन है. और जितना मर्जी तप किया हो ऋषि ने, कोई कितना बड़ा मर्जी महान हो, भक्त को दुख पहुंचाएगा तो यानी ईश्वर को दुख पहुंचाएगा. बार बार तुम्हें बोलता हूं, अपने वाणी से, अपने व्यवहार से बहुत अवेयरफुली जिया करो. आश्रम में यहाँ आने वाले लोग सभी बहुत भक्ति से आते हैं. यहाँ पे उनके भीतर भी ईश्वर की बड़ी अपार कृपा और भक्ति है. उनके भीतर अवगुण भी होंगे उनके अंदर, बट फिर भी बहुत अपार भक्ति है उनके भीतर. तभी तो संसार का रुख छोड़ के आश्रम का रुख किया उन्होंने. दृष्टि आश्रम की तरफ, किसी मंदिर की तरफ मोड़ी है. मगर हम अपने वचनों से, अपने व्यवहार से ऐसे साधु जनों का दुख, हृदय पीड़ित कर देते हैं, दुख पहुंचा देते हैं उनको, जाने अनजाने. ऋषि दुर्वासा ने भी अनजाने में पहुंचाया. वो जाने में उनको पीड़ा नहीं पहुंचाई थी, इंसल्ट नहीं किया था. तो ऐसे अनजाने में हमसे भी होता है ऐसा. ध्यान रखो, ईश्वर के भक्त को दुख पहुंचाना मतलब ईश्वर को ही दुख पहुंचाना. तो हमें अपनी वाणी पे, अपने व्यवहार पे, अपनी सोच पे बड़ा काबू रहे. नहीं तो ऐसे बहुत सारे सुदर्शन चक्र की अग्नि से हम जलते हैं। बस फर्क यह है कि दुर्वासा ऋषि को वो चक्र बस मारने के लिए ही दौड़ रहा है और वो देख पा रहे हैं। ऐसी अग्नियां हमारे पीछे भी दौड़ती हैं अगर हम ऐसी क्रिया करें, ऐसे अपराध बने अगर हमसे भी। फर्क ये है, हमें वो अग्नि, वो सुदर्शन चक्र दिखता नहीं है और हमें लगता है कि कुछ हुआ नहीं। बट कोई साइकोलॉजिकल पेन से अगर हम गुजर रहे हैं तो मानना कि वो किसी इसी तरह के अपराध का एक फल है। तो बहुत अवेयरफुली, ध्यानपूर्वक हम अपने धर्म का निर्वाह करें, हम अपना कंडक्ट करें। The time which Durvasa took to go to the three lokas and came back to Amrisha was 1 year. During that entire year, the king had not eaten a morsel of food. Durvasa was horrified at the enormity of the consequences of his rashness, and he beseeched the king to have his food. But the guest had to be honored first, according to the king. So with a pleased mind and with happiness in his heart, the rishi accepted the atithya bhog of the king Amrisha. Both of them partook of the good food, the king after the rishi had been satisfied. Amrish abhi bhi wo follow kar rahe hain. Durvasa said, I have been blessed by my contact with you, a bhakt of Narayan. Is sadhu sang se I am blessed. The world will ever remember this incident in my life and yours. He left the presence of the king and went away. As for the king, the incident had assumed the semblance of a dream. The coming of Durvasa, his anger, and later his repentance following the wrath of the chakra were all amazing happenings. And while he thought over them, Amrisha told himself, it is all the Leela of the Lord. Who can fathom the purpose behind all of this? कितने सुंदर अमरीश अभी भी अपने उसी सत्य पे खड़े हैं जहां से कथा शुरू हुई थी। लिविंग इन द वर्ल्ड बट सीइंग द वर्ल्ड एज अ ड्रीम। इस पूरी घटना को भी अमरीश एक सपने की तरह देख रहे हैं और ईश्वर की लीला की तरह देख रहे हैं कि इसको कॉम्प्रिहेंड नहीं किया जा सकता। अद्भुत है। That is how chapter 106 ends. आज यहीं रुकते हैं।